Good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 2. I don't really understand how this happened, but we're here. It's the second week of me doing this. It's already like a third of the way through September. I don't really understand how time is passing anymore. That's quite worrying. There's someone working on a thing with a deadline. I mean, I'm working on lots of things with deadlines, as many people are at all times, but particularly the deadline relevant to here. Not that it's soon, like it's the 23rd of November, so it's not soon, and technically I've got a third of the words already, if not more. So I wouldn't, normally I'm sort of expecting the middle month to be the month where I write everything, and this to be the month where I sort of gear up into writing and finish the last of my reading. And for October to be the month where I really push on the writing, and then November to be the month where I'm editing and that sort of thing. But that doesn't stop. I was going to say the existential dread, but I mean, that happens from time passing quickly as well. But I meant more, brain weasels going, hey, why haven't you finished everything yet? Why are you not done? Why were you not done yesterday? Which obviously is bollocks. So we're here for a second week. I've decided to do this first thing today, which I mentioned before, because where I schedule my studying every morning, I'm scheduled to study 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. But every Thursday I have mentoring 11 to 12, and we generally run over because my mentor's awesome and we just talk a lot, which is sort of great, except that it now runs into my only an hour-long lunch break. So I feel like I might be not doing that as much now. I've just moved over to see my calendar so that I can talk a bit more about this. So basically I spend my morning studying 15 hours a week. Sometimes doesn't seem like that much, considering that I'm studying full time, but equally it's tons when you also work a job where I do like 25 to 30 hours a week, depending on what's going on. So when you combine those together, I'm actually doing too much. And I think that's the thing I keep having to remind myself about. So the plan, such as there is a plan, and I may well change the plan once I've then talked to my mentor, so we'll see. Obviously I'm going to have like a stunted amount of time to do stuff today. On Monday, I got, how far am I? I'm 57 pages into this 207 page book. This is the one I ranted about. So I'm going to see how much further into that I can get today. Then hopefully finish that tomorrow. And that shouldn't take all of today and tomorrow. My plan is to use what remains of tomorrow to do my disabled student allowance application, which I can then talk about tomorrow. So I might stream like towards the end tomorrow, maybe once I've already done that. I need to go back through the emails from my support assistant worker. Lovely person. I usually just refer to them by name because it's easier, but that feels a bit inappropriate via this medium. So I've got some emails from her telling me about the process of applying for it, specifically for a PhD as a self-funded PhD. So I've got that to look at. I know she said I can do it, but I want to make sure, whether she gave me any extra advice about submitting it or anything, because she's the one who signs off on it. And that's one of the reasons where I was saying there's reasons to start it this early, but also that you can't necessarily always start that early, is that you have to get the university that you're studying with to sign off on your application, which obviously if, for example, you're an undergrad student and you're going there for the first time in September and you live 200 miles from your university, it takes several months for the application to go through. So you put it in the moment you get there, but then you don't actually get the help until the end of the first term, which is not ideal. So I don't want that to happen this time. I don't want any break. The only thing I want is mentoring. I don't need any other equipment or anything like that. I just need... and the other thing I get that from the university anyways, I have what's called an ILP, which is I can't remember what the acronym stands for. I want to say inclusive learning program, but I don't think program is right. I think inclusive learning something is right. Basically, what this is a document on the university system that attaches to my, I was going to say patient file, my student file, and explains the disabilities that I have, what effect they have on me while studying, and what changes, if any, supervisors, lecturers, anything like that, the university in general can make to help me. That's actually been really useful. One of the things that having an ILP entitles me to is that I'm automatically entitled to extensions. So normally most students have to prove why they need an extension. Isn't necessarily really complicated. Obviously the COVID extensions are slightly different. All you have to do is say, hi, it's 2020. But normally you have to at least say, hey, I've been ill. You don't necessarily have to immediately produce like a doctor's letter or anything like that, I don't think. But if you've got an ILP at our university, you can just have a week straight away. You don't have to, and I've used that before. I used that for my January assignments, or for one of them anyway, because that was when I was in the really bad pain flare over Christmas. The thing with being a master's student at our university anyway, I'm sure other universities do their deadlines in different ways. Basically, so I don't have any exams. All of my course was tested by assignment, and most of my assignments were at the end of term. So in my first term, I had one midterm assignment, 2 end of term assignments, and one of those was slightly shorter as a result. And also the word counts are different versus fiction, like creative practice and academic practice. So my creative practice was always 7,000 words an assignment. My academic practice came out overall as 4,000 words. But so in that first term, I had a 15,000 word one and a shorter one. I think it might actually have been 1,500 and 3,000. So it might have been a bit more than 4 in the end. But then my spring term was 7,000 of fiction and 4,000 of academic. And you don't have to, in my master's degree, take academic courses, but obviously I purely by chance looked at my module list and went, what's the medical humanities? That sounds interesting. And now here we are. It is weird to me that the entire course of what I want to do as a career was decided by me going, hey, that sounds interesting. It's very weird. But so how it works is that our deadlines are the Friday before the start of the following term. So what happens is you do your term, and in your term, obviously, you're doing all the reading for your classes. You might be doing, in creative ones, I was doing workshopping. So theoretically, you could be writing loads more. As I've mentioned, I didn't, because it turned out I didn't like it. So I just use old stuff. I don't really advocate this. But like I'd be doing like mini writing assignments in class. We were doing practices like morning pages to get us used to writing constantly, that sort of thing. And obviously that's a lot of work in the term itself. And then you'd get to the holidays and you'd have to write 2 assignments. So a master's degree doesn't really actually involve holidays. The biggest break that I had was one that shouldn't have existed, because that's where I stopped doing anything because of granddad dying and the general COVID situation and being ill. And this summer, I've just started saying because 2020, because that's the only way in which I can explain it, where everyone who is listening to me goes, yes, I understand, but also manages to encompass like all of the potential trauma in that without you having to disclose it every single time. Because that's particularly weird. Like I keep having to write letters to people that I've not spoken to. For like when I wrote to my support and well-being worker and was like, hi, I've not had to contact you for like 9 months. But some stuff happened and you feel really bad because you're dumping onto this person who cares about you. Like the following list of incredibly traumatic things happened to me Could you please help? And I know that's what they're there for, but I do. It's a lot to unload on a person at once. So yeah, but that's the reason that I want to get that DSA application done early. Is because I don't know how I got onto assignment deadlines. That was weird. Anyway, the point is I'm doing the DSA application early. Can you believe this all came from me just saying what I was going to do tomorrow? This is why this format is much better for me than trying to actually like make an edited vlog, because that terrifies me because I'd have to deal with my rambling. Whereas this way I just get to ramble and you get to live with it. So that takes us Thursday, Friday. I do want to try and do some writing this week, but the difficulty is I find if I try and force that, it goes tits up, and I don't manage to do anything, and then I just feel awful. So I have the idea that I would like on Saturday, Sunday, Monday to try and do some writing. But we'll see what comes. If I'm not able to, I will continue on the eternal, but not eternal quest to digitize my notes. I might take a break from doing the PhD ones and catch up on my dissertation notes, because obviously they're the ones I'm going to want to start searching soon, because the whole point of digitizing is so that I can Control F all of my notes in a way that you can't with a physical notebook. But then I also get the memory assistance of writing in a physical notebook, which really does help me. So that's the sort of the general idea is I know what I'm doing the next couple of days, and then the few days after that we'll see where we go. Maybe some writing, some more reading. I've got another Nordic LARP PDF to work through. So I'm sure I'll spend at least one of those days ranting about something I found in there. It's a good thing I've started today before reading, because I know I'm reading another manifesto style thing, so who knows what's going to happen. And then, writing some notes up at the times where I'm tired. It's weird. I think I'm more nervous about this week having had a really good week, because obviously off my 5 days of studying, I did all 5 of them. I turned up late, effectively. It's really weird to say turned up late when my bedroom is literally 6 paces away. I was late in making the long commute from my bedroom to my office. But yeah, and I at some point, and I think I was saying this last time or the time before, at some point I'm going to miss a day entirely. Like, I'm going to be in too much pain to get out of bed, or my brain weasels are going to be too loud, or I'm just going to be too tired, or something like that. And that's going to happen. And I think how I deal with that is almost more indicative and more significant than how I deal with just continuing. That makes sense. Because the thing with, I think particularly the kinds of illnesses I have, because obviously whilst my pain is constant, it then does operate on a flare system. So whilst I'm in pain now, sitting here, it's weird how I tune it out. And then the moment I start talking about it, I'm suddenly like, oh God, my knees are horrible. And my left hip and my back, and I could keep going and I won't. But it's quite low level. Like it's only a 2 or a 3. I realise that constant pain is not a good thing, but for me, this is pretty tolerable. It shouldn't be. That should not be the case, but that's how things are right now. So where was I going with that? Yeah, at some point, my pain will flare, or because my mental health does flare as well, basically. Like it's always a problem, but there are things that set it off. I find we often do our food shopping on a Saturday. Food shopping is horrible for me at any time, but especially right now, because supermarkets are very busy. People are not observing you will get fined if you don't wear a mask. That's still people aren't wearing masks. This confuses me, but okay. They're obviously not doing very well at actually finding people. then no one is respecting anyone's personal space anymore. Frankly, they weren't, even when the 2-meter rule was marked on the floor. And I think it's, and I think I wrote about this on my blog. I never want to be near strangers. I always want them to be far away from me. And when I'm in a supermarket, like pre-COVID, when I was in a supermarket, I would press myself up against shelves to stay as far away from people as possible and not really notice I was doing it. Like I would just instinctively walk to the opposite of where everyone else was. And when you like have that neurosis, I guess, like literally drawn on the floor in tape, and then people aren't observing that restriction, it's really horrible. And I still find, especially I think because like I'd gotten my being out in the world stamina, my stamina bar had gotten bigger. It was still costing me just as much to go to things. This is my nerdy version of the spoon theory, basically, is I have a small mana bar, stamina bar, whatever you want to call it, and everything costs a lot more. So yeah, my stamina has improved from going to uni and having to commute. And yeah, I commute on a really quiet line because I'm going away from London. But even still, it's still very busy, especially when I do I change at a very busy station. And when I'm going in for 9 a.m. lectures, when I was going in for 9 a.m. lectures, you know, that decade ago, it's just so weird speaking about anything pre-COVID right now. Yeah, when I was doing that, I would be changing over at the time where everyone is going into London, so it would be quite busy. And that, whilst it was exhausting, also built my stamina up, and then it all stopped very abruptly. And the only thing I do is go to the supermarket once a week, which means that it's so much worse because I'm not used to it in the same way. And that often happens on a Saturday in my lunch break, and then working on Saturday is then trash because I feel like shit. And I'm trying. I'm doing very well at being kind to myself and understanding, and there have been work days where I have sat there for my however many scheduled hours playing The Sims and helping people if they need anything. And I think that sounds awful to me, and I feel really bad admitting that. But like I've still been doing my job because part of my job is team management and being there for people when they need things. That is an important part of my job, and I would much rather that I was there doing that than just not there at all, which is really the alternative. And also, a year ago, I couldn't do anything for 30 hours a week. Like, not even sleep. I sleep for 30 hours a week? I could. I was sleeping too much at that point. And I've got to keep reminding myself of that, especially where time is weird. I've got to keep reminding myself that a year ago, I can't keep saying a year ago because at this point we're getting close to where I started university, where things dramatically changed. And the first few weeks of university, I was fucking ruined because I'd gone from doing nothing to commuting into a city centre to go to a very busy university 3 days a week at least. And then I got promoted like a month in and suddenly was doing a job as well. And yeah, then COVID hit and I stopped going in, but then I got promoted again. And it's been a very strange 18 months. I think it got strange the moment I put my application in for my master's. But yeah, and I do have to remember that, and I do have to be realistic. And it's really hard because of the like internalized ableism I have not to judge myself by a standard based on productivity. That's a mixture of ableism and capitalism and patriarchy, but just try untangling everything, and it's just everything is shit in that sense. not like entirely. But yeah, so I have to be realistic and say, like, you know, there's I think a couple of days last week I finished studying at 11:30 rather than 12. And that's normal. People do that with work and studying all the time. They reach a point where they go, nothing productive is occurring here, and stop. And that's going to happen. And I think it's understanding not just understanding the balance between what I can do and what I can't do, but what is a concession I'm making based on my disability and illness versus a concession I'm making based on my being human. And it's really hard to identify the difference. And sometimes I get frustrated with the need to, because there is something inherently difficult in people saying, no, what you're having is a normal reaction, because I'm thinking, I'm not sure that anything that I do is fully normal. In that I hate the word normal, basically, because you know you can't extrapolate me as like, whilst my identity is not fully required, you know, it requires my disability to explain my identity, but it's not the sum and total of my identity, is what I mean. But you can't explain me without explaining it. And it does affect everything I do in different ways, whether it's because I'm in pain constantly. So, I don't know, I'm more likely to get frustrated with things because I'm already inherently on edge, or the fact that my brain weasels do punch me in the head constantly, and that does affect everything, including my ability to focus properly and all sorts. And so it's very hard to see any reaction that I ever have as independent of those things. But I don't think it's about seeing it as independent of those things. I think what people are trying to say when, you know, if you separate it from all of the institutionalized ableism that we all inherently have, disabled or not disabled, I think what people are trying to say is this reaction you're having is okay. I don't think they're not like saying, hey, look, this reaction proves that you are in fact a human being, whereas previously I thought you weren't because you had this disability, which I think is what I inherently feel people are saying to me. I think what they're saying is there is nothing wrong with you having this reaction. Or I don't want to say there's nothing wrong because that's not quite right either. Yeah, I think, you know, I accept that you're having this reaction, or it is okay that you're having this reaction, that, you know, that sort of thing, rather than any sort of value judgment based on it. I've just completely rambled, haven't I? The problem is I view things in a very holistic way, which means that in order to come here and talk to you about studying, I kind of have to talk about everything. And also that's just how I think. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say though, so I might actually finish there. I realise that's a lot shorter than usual. And it's weird because I don't really want to start this reading. So you'd think I'd be like, let us stay for as long as possible. I'll do a 40-minute stream. Let's just keep going. Reduce the time that I have to do this reading. But no, I'm going to go and do it. I may do it in, I may do a page and then take a break and then do another page and then take a break, and we'll see how it goes. And I'll get through it. I'm quite tired, but I'm not, I'm tired and I'm in pain. My brain weasels aren't too bad. But I just have the low-lying, don't really want to be at this desk feeling, which I think is something that a lot of people have. I got up fine this morning, which was nice, especially because I was up late. I'd had this whole plan. I had a lovely weekend, by the way, where I read so much, and I watched all of the second season of The Umbrella Academy, and I knitted, I think, probably a meter or so of scarf. It's a long scarf, not my tiny little scarf for my nephew. I've got a main scarf that I've been working on that more wool arrived for, so I suddenly was like, oh, I can keep going. And that wool's a lot nicer to work with, so I think this, I don't know if you can see how fluffy this stuff is. I'm just knocking everything over now. Yeah, so that's quite annoying to work with, whereas my it's tight, it's not quite as big, so it's harder in that sense, but it's tighter bound, the other wool I've got, and I think the needle size I'm working with them is technically too big, but that means it's perfect for me. So yeah, I did that. I then had this plan to have, I don't know what fell over there, but it was something. I'm going to keep talking now. That's what's going to happen. I know I said I was going to stop. Anyway, yeah, I had this plan to sort of like have a nice quiet evening where I slowly had a bath and then went and I've started bullet journaling again and went and did that and went into bed and did some reading and went to sleep earlier than usual, and then none of that happened and I crawled into bed at midnight having spent 8 hours writing fan fiction. So but as was pointed out to me, I confessed that to my friends on my way to bed and they all went, but did you enjoy it? And I went, yes, I really enjoyed it. I'm very pleased, and I've never had that many comments overnight on a story, so that's nice. Yeah, and so I don't regret it. I do slightly regret how tired I am, but I don't really. I was also up until 3 a.m. reading the night before. This is I think what I do. It's actually quite freeing because sleep is such a big problem for me, and normally I stress about it, and it feels like the last couple of days I went, well, fuck it. But that was quite nice. And weirdly, I think I slept better. I don't really understand how. Maybe just by not stressing about it. Maybe that's the new tactic, is just to not care. Although if I not care too much, then obviously I'll be exhausted. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm gonna finish there because I actually have run out of things to talk about. But we'll see how this week goes together, because I'll be back here tomorrow talking. Apparently, this is the thing I do now. I've started admitting to people that this is happening. I realise this is a weird thing to say. I've got like over 80 followers, so technically, kind of told a load of people already. But I've not like publicised it anywhere, so that might happen at some point in this week when I feel ready to. But yeah, so I'm going to leave it there for now, and I will see you all probably like closer to noon tomorrow. I think somewhere between 11 and, oh no, Steam's just told me a game is on sale. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow somewhere between 11 and 12. All right. Bye.